Hey guys, it's Chris. From the guy who died after getting stuck in a dinosaur statue to the chef who fell into a vat of soup and cooked himself to death, here are 10 of the craziest and dumbest ways people have actually died. Number 10. The last selfie. An unfortunate teenager spent her final moments trying to take a selfie on the top of a railway bridge in St. Petersburg, Russia. Before she could get the picture, she plunged 30 feet to her death. The teen's name was Xenia Ignatieva, and she was only 17 years young when she climbed onto the railway bridge with one goal: to take the ultimate selfie. But as she was setting herself up for the dramatic picture, Xenia fell to her death. She may have survived the 30-foot drop if she hadn't tried to save herself by desperately grabbing a hold of a live wire. The wire shot 1,500 volts through her body, essentially igniting her from the inside out. And this is tragic for all the obvious reasons and a few more. Xenia had purchased an expensive camera at the end of her summer job and was keen on becoming a professional photographer. It was her big passion in life. And unfortunately, her passion ultimately led to her death in a brazen attempt to get a risky selfie with her new camera. She also had a friend waiting down below that witnessed the entire incident. Her friend was absolutely mortified and will most likely never recover from seeing her best pal die right in front of her eyes. Martin Voigt, a psychologist from Munich University, had this to say about it: "We need to look at the deeper meaning of photos taken on railway tracks. The photo is not so much about the theme of it, but the component behind it. They play with danger." He also added that some people taking selfies are driven by the desire to take the best in the world, and as a result, they're becoming more and more extreme. So please, kids, the crazy selfies, they're just not worth it. Number 9. Amusement park disaster. A boy is dead after the worst amusement park ride ever. The accident happened at Adventureland Park in Iowa on a ride called the Raging River. And on that day that river was raging all right. A boat on the ride overturned with 6 passengers on it in such a dramatic crash that 3 of the passengers had to be rushed to hospital in near-death condition, while an 11-year-old boy named Michael Jaramillo was pronounced dead on sight from injuries he sustained. It must be embarrassing to take your kids to an amusement park only to have one of them die when your boat flips over. According to the park themselves, the ride had been inspected the day before and was found to be in perfect working condition. Nobody knows why the accident occurred. But it wasn't even the first fatality at this park. A park employee had died just a little while earlier on the exact same ride, only he'd been helping guests get out of the rafts at the end when he somehow tripped and fell into the conveyor belt, cracking open his skull and dying 4 days later from a major brain injury. We think maybe it's time for this ride to be shut down. Number 8. Dead in a dinosaur. A 39-year-old man that had been missing has recently been found dead inside the statue of a dinosaur in Spain. Prepare to be wowed because this has got to be one of the dumbest ways anyone has ever died. Out of respect for the family, the man has not been named, but the authorities have still given out most of the juicy details about his bizarre death. So here's what happened. The guy dropped his phone inside the hollow leg of a huge Stegosaurus statue in Barcelona. He was most likely climbing on the statue, or maybe his phone slipped under the dino's foot. We're a little fuzzy on those exact details. But the guy, who was by himself, obviously wanted his phone back, so he wriggled his way inside of the hollow statue. But it was easier getting in than getting out. Not only could he not reach his cell phone to call for help, but he couldn't get himself out of the leg. He ended up suffocating and dying inside the Stegosaurus. He was only discovered later because a father and son were walking by and happened to smell the overpowering stench of a decaying body. Firefighters had to cut the statue open to remove the smelly body, and the statue has since been removed from its place outside the Cubic building in Barcelona. Not to be insensitive, but that's why we have phone insurance, right? Why would you ever attempt something like this? Just let the phone go and get a different one. Let us know what you would do in the comment section down below, and if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Number 7. Eaten alive by a crocodile. While taking an exotic river trip in India, a tourist from Britain found himself in quite the pickle. He was kidnapped by a hungry crocodile. The tourist's name was Ian Turton, and he was taking a river trip near Bangalore when the wild attack took place. The 497-mile-long Kaveri River runs across 3 of the southern Indian states. Ian was with a traveling companion and friend, a man named Michael Easton, and they were on the river in an inflatable dinghy. As you can probably imagine, an inflatable dinghy is not the best thing to be cruising down the river in, especially when there are crocodiles around. The men went missing somewhere along the river. Rescuers found the half-eaten body of Ian, who appeared to have tried to escape the crocodiles, and then was literally ripped in half. Michael's body wasn't found, but the inflatable dinghy was discovered with puncture marks made by crocodile teeth. Michael is still missing, and he's assumed dead and eaten. Number 6, stuck in a cave. People just keep getting stuck in weird places. When are they gonna learn? If it looks too small for you, it probably is, and if it looks too dangerous, it probably is. In Utah, a medical student and an experienced caver named John Jones, 26 years old, got trapped upside down in the famous Nutty Putty Cave for over 28 hours. This is a popular spelunking site roughly 80 miles from Salt Lake City. John was actually the first person to die inside the cave, according to the county sheriff's office. But how exactly did John Jones get stuck in the cave? Well, he wasn't exactly a small guy, he was pretty big, about 6 feet and almost 200 pounds. He got jammed in a very weird position with his head bent at an angle below his feet. He tried to stick himself somewhere his big body clearly didn't fit. And after a desperate rescue attempt, things were looking pretty grim. There was nothing anyone could do except literally watch and speak to John as he slowly died, with the blood rushing to his brain. And all because he thought it would be fun to crawl upside down through a cave. Nutty Putty is now closed to the public, and there's been no news of it reopening. Number 5, death by a peeing contest. A woman died a few years ago during a peeing contest. Yes, a contest about peeing. At the time, it kind of seemed like a good idea. A radio station held a contest calling it Hold Your Wii for a Wii. Whoever could hold their pee the longest was gonna win a free Nintendo Wii system. That was a $250 value at the time. The rules of the contest were that the contestants had to drink as much water as possible without peeing. The last person standing who hadn't peed and who had drank the most water would win. Well, it turned out to be a pretty terrible idea. Jennifer Strange was 28 years old when she entered the competition. Her kids loved video games and she wanted to win the prize for them. But she puked, was disqualified, and went back home. I guess during the contest, Jennifer was complaining of stomach pains and the host chuckled and said, "Is anyone dying in there?" 6 hours later, she dropped dead in her home. Apparently, she had suffered water intoxication. This is almost like alcohol intoxication, but kinda way worse. It happens when too much water enters the blood and dilutes the electrolytes and sodium, resulting in a shutdown of brain function and immediate death. After the incident, the radio station was ordered to pay over $16 million in damages to the family. The radio station could also lose its license altogether. 2 media watchdog groups are challenging the license renewal of the station too. They were seen as liable for the young mother's strange demise. Number 4, too funny for life. A Greek philosopher was so funny that he died laughing at his own joke. The philosopher, named Chrysippus, was 73 years old at the time of his death. He was born in ancient Turkey and moved to Athens to become a scholar. He lived a long and prosperous life, making a joke so funny that he literally laughed himself into the grave. And are you ready for the joke? Here's what happened. The philosopher saw a donkey eating his figs while at a feast. The philosopher said, "Now give that donkey a pure wine to wash down the figs." So I'm not really sure why that's so funny, but it was so hilarious to him that he laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. He laughed so hard that he hit the floor and began to shake and foam at the mouth. By the time people rushed to his aid, he was already dead. So this may or may not have actually happened. There are historical records of the event, but nobody knows for sure what happened back in 200 BC, because that's over 2,000 years ago. What we do know is that death by laughter is a real thing. Laughing too hard can cause a heart attack, loss of consciousness, or even unexpected asphyxiation. So I guess jokes aren't really so funny now, huh? Number 3, death by orange peel. Bobby Leach was born in 1858 and was the ultimate daredevil. He was the second person to ever go over Niagara Falls inside of a barrel in 1911. But no, this wasn't the dumb thing that killed him. He did spend 6 months in hospital recovering from injuries including broken kneecaps and a fractured jaw, but he lived all the way to an old age. He returned to Niagara Falls 10 years after his fateful barrel plunge and tried to swim through the whirlpool rapids at the bottom. He failed to make it all the way through, though. However, that didn't kill him either. What killed Bobby Leach was an ordinary orange peel. After a lifetime of daredevil stunts, Bobby went to New Zealand on a publicity tour when he stepped on an orange peel, slipped, and fell on his back and injured his leg. The injury became extremely infected. It got gangrenous, and doctors had to cut the whole leg off. 2 short months later, Bobby died from complications. Everyone was pretty shocked to say the least. After all of those harrowing stunts, it was a slippery orange peel that finally did him in. Number 2. Impaled by reusable straw. A woman in England has been killed by a reusable metal straw. Yes, as ridiculous as that sounds, it's 100% true. Her name was Elena Struthers Gardner. She was 60 years old, and she was walking with an ordinary drinking glass which contained a short stainless steel metal drinking straw. It's important to note that Elena suffered from scoliosis, meaning her spine was curved unnaturally, and this made her clumsy and very prone to falling. When she fell, she was carrying the glass, and when she hit the ground, the metal straw impaled her through the eyeball. She must have landed in such a way that the straw hit the ground and became rigid, turning it into a deadly spike. It stuck through her eye and into her brain, causing an injury that proved immediately fatal. She didn't even know what happened. It was a complete freak accident. The straw went through her eye, into her brain, and she was dead in a second. What's really ironic about this story is that plastic straws have been outlawed in most countries because of their danger to the environment, and a lot of people are replacing them with reusable metal ones. But now it seems the metal straws are a hazard to people, since they can impale your brain. Maybe we should just get rid of straws altogether? I don't know, what do you think? Number 1. Fallen in a vat of soup. In Iraq, a chef cooked himself to death. Yep, it's a little ironic. The incident happened while a man was preparing for a large wedding feast. He had a giant vat filled with chicken soup. He was standing over the soup, stirring it with his ladle, and he didn't have a care in the world. He's a chef after all, cooking is his whole life. But then he slipped, fell into his very own soup, and cooked himself all the way to death. Of course, he didn't die immediately. He was rescued from the vat by a terrified wedding guest. But he wouldn't survive for long. 70% of his body was covered in third-degree burns. He may as well have been trapped inside of a burning building. After 5 days of suffering in the hospital, the chef succumbed to his injuries and passed away quietly. He left behind 3 children, one of them being a 6-month-old baby. As for whether the wedding guests still ate this soup, we can only hope they didn't. Thanks for watching. What do you think would be the worst way to go? Let us know in the comments section down below. And be sure to hit the subscribe button for more awesome videos like this one. We'll see you next time.